are back. My name is RJ Snyder. I work for Howell Rescue Systems, and my co-host, go ahead.
That's me.
That is you.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm Jared Buckley. I am an executive coach. I coach fire chiefs, and my company's 1011 Response. Been doing that for the last, 5-6 years, and have a lot of fun stories coaching those chiefs. So, thank you. Welcome to you.
Yep.
Welcome to you.
Thank you.
And we are lucky enough to have the one and only Lieutenant Dan with us today.
I am officially Lieutenant Dan.
That is true. It's not very often that officially you get to meet Lieutenant Dan.
Yeah.
So
those text messages happen.
We'll get into that one here in a minute, because that's probably, you hear that a lot.
I do hear that a lot. Yes.
Really? I'm surprised.
I do.
Yeah.
I do. So
crazy.
Who would have thought, right?
You're right.
Who
would
have
thought?
thought?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So I did. I mean, I took the time. I wrote down this nice little paragraph. It's a long one.
It looks good.
You have a lot of history. I think we're very excited to get to talk to you today, because I think you bring a lot to the table. But we'll talk about some highlights, and then after I'm done butchering it, I'll let you correct all my mistakes. So today we have Lieutenant Dan Roudebush, I believe is how you say last name.
Correct.
So you've been in law enforcement for 30 years. Throughout your career, you've had some pivotal roles, including 16 and a half years with the Clinton County Sheriff's Office. Currently, you're Lieutenant of Investigations.
Correct.
Love that. And then also firearms and physical tactics instructor. You've been on SWAT for about 15 years.
Yep. Get close. Yeah.
Close. Perfect. And you've worked your way up from operator to command of a joint team.
Correct.
Love that. So those are the highlights. Why don't you fill in what I missed? Give us a little background.
I have been in law enforcement 30 years. I started about as low as you can get in Indiana. I started as a reserve deputy town marshal. Town marshal departments at that time, were no more than 3 paid, and then you could have a couple of reserves. So I started in a real small town, and I spent 15 years working in the marshal's departments. So that's ground level, in law enforcement. It's not big city stuff. That's your, typically your Mayberry. That's what you look at.
Gotcha.
We had a couple thousand in the town that I started in, and I worked in a couple different towns over the years. As I worked up from a reserve to a paid deputy to marshal, which is equivalent to small town chief in 2 different areas. And that kind of experience started coloring my career, how I moved forward in that time. So I got to do, 15 years with that. We had an organization over in Indiana called the Indiana Town Marshals Association, and it's now called the Indiana Marshals Association. Still great association. I was president of that for 10 years. And that also kind of colored some of my response back then. Because with marshals, marshals don't get a lot. They don't have a lot of financial resources. They don't have a lot of resources for training and stuff. That's actually what kicked me off to become an instructor.
Okay.
Besides the fact that I'm very OCD, and I like to, if I'm going to do something, I want to know the most about it. And my thinking at that time was, well, who knows the most? It's an instructor, right? Or at least they should know, more than everybody else. So, in those early formative years, it allowed me to kind of chart my course in law enforcement. Being a marshal, being a reserve, the thing with a small agency is you got to do it all. You're a road guy, you're an investigator, you are, public affairs officer, you're just all that stuff. So that helped me a lot, and then as I moved down, through the career, I wanted to move on to something a little bigger because, as a young guy, you want to get into stuff. Well, in a small town, you're not going to get into a whole lot. Okay, it just doesn't. You can't go out and stop everybody under the sun. You can't be arresting the whole town. And when you're young guys, that's what you want to do. You want to go out and be active. So, 3 years, I was able to make it over to the Clinton County Sheriff's Office, started as a road officer there. And, once again, it's been another pivotal thing. I've been very lucky with our Sheriff's Office, and I got to do a lot of different things with them. I've had a lot of opportunities that I've gotten, and it's really changed how I look at things and how I do things. I do SWAT. I run our polygraph division. One of the most challenging things I've ever done is going through polygraph school. It's very intense. It's very long, depending on where you go. Minimum's 10 weeks. Some of them are 17 weeks long, 5-6 days a week, 10, 12 hours a day. So there's a lot that goes into that stuff. And then, that helps shape a lot of my investigative stuff.
Sure.
Because there's more skill sets that go along with that than just everybody, hooking somebody up to a box and running. That's not what it is. There's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
But, that helps you build on your interview skills, interrogation skills. So, there's quite a bit that I've got to really do. I've been really lucky that I've got to do over the years.
Interesting. That's how we get better at this.
The
We take polygraph.
Yeah,
we go to polygraph school.
We can do that.
I'm not willing to open myself up to that. No, that's super interesting though. So there's a lot. You mentioned there's a lot that goes into the polygraph thing. I'm going to stick with that for a minute because that's kind of cool.
Please do.
So
'cause that's where I'm at.
Because most people think you hook somebody up to a box and it tells you if you're lying or not. I'm assuming that is absolutely not what's happening.
Not the way that people think.
Okay.
Okay. A polygraph is a detection of deception.
Right.
Okay. So I'm not going to say somebody's an outright liar. What it is potentially you're telling me 98% of the truth. The 2% is what's really matters, though.
Interesting.
Okay. So, but it's not like, I can just give either one of you an instrument, say, go attach the components, because I don't like the phrase hook up. If you any real polygraph guy or gal, you don't say that. But anyway,
good to know.
You got to have an understanding how the equipment works, the theory behind how it works, and it's based on fight or flight.
Right.
That's what it's based off of. Okay. It's also of a perception of what the truth is. Okay. And it's a perception of what that person believes the truth to be. So you have to have an understanding of how all that works. You have to be able to write the correct questions.
Right.
That's really important. I don't ask you the right thing,
Interesting.
Yep. So it's really important. So there's a lot that goes into it. As with anything, if you have a poor examiner, you have a poor result.
Right.
You got somebody that's invested in it, does the work, does everything the way they're supposed to do, you're going to have a great product. Nothing's perfect.
Sure.
Understand that. A polygraph is not fail-proof. It's very effective depending on the kind of test you run. And there's different types for different situations, but, they are high, mid-high 90s effectiveness. Okay. And they're an effective tool. They're not all, to be all. The only one that really knows the truth is the person that's being interviewed and God.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
That's it. So, but, your examiner has to do the work. It's not something that is done in 10 minutes. It's not something that's done in a half hour. A correct polygraph test usually takes, and it depends on what we're talking about, whether it's pre-employment, criminal.
Right. Yeah.
It's a couple-hour test.
Dang.
Oh, I was wondering.
I didn't
It's a
realize
couple-hour
that.
test.
That's what I was wondering.
Yeah. It's not, like TV, see them hook it up, snap a couple questions at
Sure.
you. There's other people in the room.
Pass, fail.
So,
Interesting.
And there can be reasons for other things as far as that goes along, because you have typically pass, fail, inconclusive.
Right.
Okay. And sometimes, you have to look into a result a little bit more. And it could be that they're not telling the truth, or it could be you need to tweak your question a little bit. So there can be follow-up tests to what you just did to make sure you're doing the best job that you can and you're getting the truth, hopefully, out of them. And, a polygraph examiner, when you take a polygraph test, the examiner is for the honest person. Right. That's what they're there for, to get the honest person through this. There's no trap. There's nothing like that. You know all the questions beforehand. You know everything that's going to happen. It's told to you.
Yep.
It's not an ambush. So, but as with anything and with any career or anything you do, the examiner has to do his preparation. He has to do his due diligence. He has to follow his training, the rules, and his experience. And that's how you get, I don't want to say, I'd say a good product, but that's, how you get a result that, you have faith in, confidence out of it.
A lot of questions.
We're done for today.
This entire episode is going to be on polygraph testing.
What were we talking about before?
I don't know.
You said the questions. Now, you come pre-prepared with those questions.
Sometimes.
Well, sometimes. That's what I was wondering.
Okay. So, we could spend probably a long time talking about this. Understand this. So if I'm doing a criminal test and you're an investigator, okay, because obviously I'm an investigator. I cannot give my own test. That's unethical.
Right.
Okay.
Correct.
Your examiner has to be a neutral third party that has nothing in this game. Okay. The only thing they have in it is the truth. That's it. So, it's either I'm able to prove that you're innocent, which is the goal we hope, or you screw up and you lie, and that's your own fault. But when we do these questions, the investigator gives me an idea of what they're looking for. And then they'll give me the reports. I'll read through the reports, and I will try to identify what the pertinent question is, because it's not always what the investigator thinks it is.
Interesting. Or
how they want it asked is not necessarily how I can do it. Okay? There's very structured things that you have to do with a polygraph, and how you formulate those questions. I mean, obviously, the polygraph's been around basically 100 years at this point.
That's really?
Yeah. Since, my instructor from my academy is going to smack me later, but I believe it's 1921. Okay.
Holy moly.
And the theory goes before that. Okay. So it's been around a long, long time.
Yeah.
And as with everything, it gets better and it gets better. It gets better by experience, by learning, right? We figure out what works, what doesn't work. We add new equipment. So what used to be in the beginning was roughly 2 channels, which when I mean by channels, we'd check your blood pressure and electrodermal activity, EDA. Okay.
Yep.
But now it's done, you got movement sensors, we got, cardio, we got, just there's so much more that adds to continue to make it more and more accurate. Okay. And the type of test are changed. They are continually in development and, continuing to try to make the questions, the way they're asked, better. So there's multiple organizations out there, American Polygraph Association, American Association of Police Polygraphers, they're out there, and that's continually, and they got guys that are much, much smarter than me working on this stuff. And, it's not gone away in 100 years. It isn't going to go away. It's used, obviously, by law enforcement. It's used by the federal government. They use it a lot for counterintelligence, counterinsurgency, and things like that. So it's a valid tool. But as with any tool, it's got to be used right.
Sure.
So
we just bring it back for an episode just on polygraphs.
Oh, my goodness.
Right?
Every time you're talking, I have list of. Did you write my questions?
Just throw those out.
Yeah.
Just throw those out. We don't need
That's what I
them.
said, get rid of that.
We don't need them.
Just roll. Are you watching the monitors as you're asking the questions, or are you watching the body language and watching for any physiological shift?
Yes.
All of it. See, you know what I love? I love things that are both an art and a science.
Yes.
And this is
It
like
is.
up
It
there.
is an art form. Okay. But it is also science. So when I look at a monitor, any polygraph examiner looks at a monitor, we are not developing an opinion. Okay? What you're looking at is making sure that you're getting data and that it's good data. Okay? So I'm not sitting there going, oh, what did he just do? Okay? No. I'm like, okay, it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. We're recording it because if it's not recording it, it does us no good, right?
Right.
So I'm making sure that we get good, valid data. I am not formulating an opinion. And, you know, I've done this long enough, nearly 10 years, not quite, but nearly in polygraph, that you don't look at that screen and go, oh, he did this, he did. You don't. That's at the end.
Yeah.
Okay? So you just want to make sure that you're getting good data, that they're hearing what you're saying, you know, because it's really easy to get monotone and low.
Yeah.
You know, so you're making sure all those little steps are in place. That's all you're doing as it's going through. Physiology, watching on that, not as much as what you would in an interview or an interrogation, okay?
Yeah.
So, you know, what you're watching for is, you want to make sure that they're not trying to do anything to skew the results. And I'm not going to get into that too much, okay?
Yeah.
I want them to, though.
I know you do. I know you do. But see, and that's the thing. People do. What people will do is they come in and they try to help us help them pass, and they go and they do research on the internet and they will read about things that they think will help them, and it hurts them. Just come in and be honest.
Yeah.
You know, and if there's a question on your mind, you ask the examiner. I can't help you with what I don't know.
Oh, interesting.
Okay?
Interesting.
So just like when we're talking about pre-employment, okay, law enforcement uses this for pre-employment. Fire does. They use it for pre-employment, right? Okay. So, you know, we give you a packet. It's usually 13, 14 pages long, and we got all kinds of questions in there. You know, we ask you to answer them, and anything you answer yes to, I want an explanation.
Okay.
And anything that, you know, you don't quite understand, put a star by it, okay? Because what you think I'm asking you may not be that at all. And typically it's not. People look into it way too deep.
Yeah.
You know, just like, you know, one of the questions, you ever committed arson? Well, yeah, I got cookouts. I'd start fires. That's obviously not what it is, you know. You know, and they think way too deep into that. But if we don't talk about it, then it's going to bug you, right?
Right.
And, you know, and if you think I'm asking a question one way when I'm really asking it another, could there be a negative effect?
Yeah.
Possibly. So, you know, I mean, and it is intimidating going in there, without a doubt. It's intimidating, you know. It's not meant to be, but it is a byproduct. Everybody's nervous. If you're not nervous, there's a problem.
Yeah.
Okay. So, but, you know, an examiner's job is to ease some of that anxiety and tension. Once again, you know all the questions. It's not an ambush.
Right.
Okay. We, you know, and that's one of the things. I make sure you understand everything that I'm asking and why I'm asking it. And then we proceed from there. Okay. So, but, you know, like I said, it's a skill set. Yeah, a little bit of art to it as far as being able to talk to somebody, you know, communications. And, you know, and there's a scientific base. Some will say it's pseudoscience, but you look at it, there's a long history that's attached to it.
Yep.
If it didn't work, it wouldn't be around this long.
For sure.
Okay.
So, without you revealing stuff you can't
The dark
reveal.
mystical
Yes,
secrets of
exactly.
The gnomes that live in the box.
As you've gone through this in your career, and as you've interviewed different people, what has ever surprised you, and how have you reacted when you were surprised in that moment?
Oh, that's interesting.
You know, anymore, nothing surprises me.
It's funny.
after
Everybody
30 years.
says that, right?
You know, because people
there.
ask
It's
me,
there.
they'll ask me, hey, what's the most interesting thing? I'm like, define interesting.
Yeah.
You know, because you do get to see and experience so much, and so much that you really don't want to
Sure.
experience, you know. So, those kind of questions are really hard. And re-ask that question, because
I'd be glad to. Have you ever had a moment where you had to reset yourself because it went into an area that you didn't see it happening?
Yeah.
And whether it was funny, startling, whatever it was, but where did you have to reset?
So I'll tell you that it's not. Take polygraph out of that.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect.
Just take that out of that.
Perfect.
And what I'll say is this: it's interviews going into interrogation.
Okay.
Because sometimes you will be told something you weren't expecting. There may be an additional crime there that you didn't know about,
Right.
or the depth of the crime is much deeper than what you're aware of. And you are off camera. You and I were talking about some stuff.
Yes.
Some pretty heavy stuff. And that's kind of what I'm getting at there.
Okay.
The revelations that they tell you. And, for a normal person, unfortunately, we're told some of these things. And unfortunately, our viewers don't. We were talking about sex crimes, and we were talking about folks who are intellectually challenged and some of the horrendous things that are done to them, just so everybody has an idea. But when people are telling you the things they are doing, such in a case like that, most people will show it on their face. Some people want to knock them out. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Just because, like, oh my God, you did what to that child?
Yeah.
You can't do that. And your goal is you're trying to find the truth. If I go off with this horrific look on my face or a look that says you're disgusting, then I'm not going to get the truth. And you'll never get the complete truth. You'll get the partial truth.
Yeah.
So, sometimes you got to say, oh, man, you do that too? Or something along those lines, and take that in context to the question.
Yeah,
okay?
for sure.
You got to make it seem like, oh, it's normal. What's the big deal? Why is everybody mad?
Kind of take that guard down a little bit.
Wow.
But if I react with horror on my face, and sometimes you are like, oh, what did he say?
Yeah.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
And the whole idea is get to the truth, whatever it is. It doesn't matter, whatever it is. You want that truth, and you want a complete version of that as you can get. Okay. And especially if you got victims that you're trying to get justice for.
Sure.
So, and the best interviewers, interrogators are folks that can do that.
Yeah.
They can hide that feeling, that shock, and be able to work through it and get to, what the ultimate truth is and the end result. Now, sometimes that truth is you're clearing somebody, which is awesome. You want to clear the innocent. And sometimes they say stupid stuff, and your face wants to reflect that was stupid.
Shouldn't have said that.
But you just can't do that.
Yeah.
So
interesting.
hopefully that answered your question in a way. So
yeah, and obviously I know you can't get into too many details on certain things, but I think the fascination is there because whether it's law enforcement, whether it's another profession, whether it's just normal life, I mean, we get startled by information that's provided for us, and we have to reset ourselves. Some of us are not very good at that.
True.
But it kind of was just looking at, from your standpoint, a professional resetter. Like, that's how I would frame you. I mean, you have to.
Yeah.
And
that's not easy to do.
It's not. And when I first got into investigations, and we were talking, the vast majority of my cases, not only for me but for my folks that work with me, is sex crimes, and typically sex crimes against children. So some kind of abuse against a child. When you first get into it and you hear some of the things that people do to children, it takes you back,
Yeah.
And I know you got a question down the line for me is dealing with emotional toll.
Yep.
Those kind of cases take an emotional toll, because it takes a special person to investigate these kind of crimes.
Sure.
And to do it on a daily basis. And, sometimes that job requires you. I've had to do it. I got one of my guys that does it. Great guy. But child pornography, it's just rampant, right? So we have to look at every image. And I had a case where we had thousands of images.
Damn.
I mean, thousands upon thousands. And you have to look at every image and every video because you have to try to identify the victims that are in that. Now, we got algorithms out now that, you can load some of this stuff up, and if that victim's been reported before, they can find that. Now, when it's on a local level, not as much, but, once again, it was, some of these kids that are in their own mind kind of I can't even say the word I want to say, memonized. Some of them have some intellectual issues. Some of them have emotional issues. They all make, unfortunately, good victims because they're easier to take advantage of.
Right.
But, the investigator has to look at this stuff. And it kind of sucks a little bit of your soul out when you do that.
Sure. God, I can only imagine.
I
honestly, I can't even imagine.
I'm right now, like...
Yeah.
I'm rattled right now.
So...
Yeah, go.
So that obviously is not something that you can develop, or you probably don't come in to the service with that level, because you have to have probably more emotional intelligence than most people on this planet at that point.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's debatable. My wife might tell you that intelligence level may be a little lower.
Hey, emotional intelligence can fluctuate in certain situations.
That is true. So what is that like? What does it look like? And I'm sort of taking it back because obviously nobody comes in and they're like, that's what I want to investigate, right?
Well, don't assume that.
I guess that I could be wrong there.
You're wrong.
So
when I came to investigations, I wanted that.
Interesting. Okay.
And the reason is I do have screw loose. Don't lie.
It's a requirement to be on the podcast.
But so when I looked at this, when we looked at crimes, all crimes have victims, right? Mm. You losing a car is very important to you. Mm. It has maybe economical issues, things like that. So I don't want to minimize victims. A victim's a victim, and it causes hardships for them. But to me, when I was thinking about becoming an investigator, what I looked at was where could I have the most impact and who was hurt the most. And when we're talking about money hurts people, don't get me wrong. Dealing with children.
Yeah.
Because the abuse that's inflicted has a lasting effect.
Sure.
And sometimes they are re-victimized, okay, because of what they've learned.
Yeah.
We're talking sex crimes. Oh, this is what love is supposed to look like? Well, no, that's not what it is, but that's what they think it is. Drug use, suicide. So, when I interviewed to be an investigator way back, and I was asked, what do I want to do?
Yeah.
Well, I want that. Now, did I realize the impact and toll?
Sure.
No. I'm very religious. So for me, it's not so much that I chose to go this path. I think God wanted me to go this way. God has a big role in my life.
Sure. Yeah.
And that helps me get through. But I think for me to get to where I was as an investigator, to get to where I'm at now, if I had, where I started, if I hadn't started as that reserve town marshal, then I wouldn't have gotten to experience so many things on that level that if I just got hired at 21 and, got hired in a nice big agency and gone and go out and do. My opinion is God made me took the hard road.
Yep.
The hard road. I had to take a lot of lumps and learn a lot of lessons to get molded in what he wanted me to do. And I'm not saying I'm a great investigator. I'd like to be at least thought of as a good investigator. But he chose where he wanted me to go, and I finally listened, and that's where I went.
Yeah.
So,
Is that something you felt like you were kind of getting pulled to since you were a kid? Or what does that road look like?
So, honestly, I never wanted to be a police officer.
Interesting.
Had no desire on that.
Oh, the tables have turned.
I wanted to be a fighter pilot.
Okay.
My dad was a Marine. He's an infantry Marine. He was 100% disabled, fought in Vietnam. And he loved airplanes. Loved airplanes.
Nice.
So we always had books, and I devoured Dad's books. And they were fighter pilots, especially World War II, 4th Fighter Group. I don't know if you guys like any of that history, but I mean, and we would go to, we'd go to Mecca, Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and go look at the airplanes and go to the shows, so air shows. So I wanted to do that, but my vision kept me from doing that. Okay. And what I ultimately, as I went along, there's, little things here and there. I viewed my dad as my hero. He had an honor code. I wanted to do something honorable. Didn't know what that was. And ultimately, I'll admit, I got in trouble as a kid.
Sure.
Introduced to a deputy, and that got me thinking. And I decided I wanted to go that way. And, I wanted that, like I said, it had to be something that I viewed as honorable. Not that any other job's not honorable.
Sure.
Don't obviously don't take it that way. But, when your dad was a Marine, that's what you look at on an honor code. And I'm like, okay. And it just seemed to started to click once that stuff come into play. I was a country boy too, so I get fast cars. They let me drive fast. I get guns, free bullets. I'm thinking, okay, this is sounding
Checking
pretty
some
good.
boxes there,
Yeah. So, but no, that's what kind of kicked it off for me. I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do. I was going to Purdue. I went to Purdue. I was in their aviation program. I loved planes, but that just didn't ultimately end up being what it is. And I went and what also helped kick it off too is I went and took a test and, try to figure out what you want to go on in life.
Okay.
And I scored really high here. And that's why I started thinking, more about that. So, different things from life started kicking in. I'm thinking, okay. And then I did a ride along. And the first lights and siren run, that was it. I was done.
Sold.
I was hooked. Yep,
Nice.
I was hooked. So
There were some little steps along the way, little signs, kind of point you in the right direction.
yeah. So
Interesting.
you just have to, learn to listen.
Sure.
Because, if you don't listen, you don't look, you miss the doors that are open there and the opportunities, and you can miss something great. So,
Amen to that. Wow. You were open to it, right? So
after a while,
Yeah.
I figured out my plan wasn't the right plan. I had to go with God's plan. So,
There you go.
But anyway, yeah.
Very cool.
You asked about the emotional intelligence, or made mention to that. The level of foundation that's required to do what you do is a high volume. And hearing, your relationship with your dad and the admiration you had for your dad plays into that foundation.
Oh, most definitely. Dad and mom. Can't leave mom out.
Sure.
But yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But you've seen others that you've worked with that may have struggled with that foundation. How does that affect them? I know you don't want to get into details if you do know, but...
if you're talking about like getting into investigations and you don't have a good solid foundation to start with, religion's important to me.
Sure.
It's not important to everybody. But you have to have a good solid foundation, otherwise you start dealing into some of this dark stuff, then things just start crumbling for you. Because it affects your mental health when you see what happens to children physically and emotionally. And, as investigators, all of us investigators, at some point we deal with child deaths. For our agency, my division is small. I got myself. I got an assistant that runs my world. Without her, I would be lost, I'll be honest. She knows who she is.
Yep, there you go.
And then I have 3 detectives that work for me. But, we go out to every death investigation. And as you deal with somebody that's older and that's sick, that's easier to deal with.
Sure. Yeah.
When you go and you roll up on, we used to call them SIDS death, sudden infant, it's unknown deaths now. And as every one of us are dads, that affects you, and yeah, you got to do your job. Sometimes you go off and get in your car and you go cry for a little bit.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
Absolutely.
And then you also try, you try to find an answer. Why did this happen? And then you also try to find a way to help the parents, which is difficult because you can see so much grief that they're in. You get really involved with your families, because unlike a traffic stop, you meet me for the first time, the last time. When I'm dealing with a family, especially with some kind of abuse or a death, it's the worst thing that's ever happened to them in their life.
For sure.
And they come for you, for help, and you're doing your best, and you talk to them, and not all of them, but some of my families, I still talk to, and it's been years.
Wow.
You may be the only one that, for a victim, took interest, listened to what it was saying, and then had a positive impact. Because maybe they don't have a dad in their life, or whatever. Those are the kind of things that make you want to do the job. But they also kind of tears you up too. So that also kind of changes what you do when you go home to your kids.
Absolutely.
So once again, we were talking off camera. And we were talking about things, and knowing what I know now, as parents, we're scared anyway, right? Well, now I'm more scared.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it's different, but a good solid foundation, family foundation, helps. Whether it's mom and dad, if you have some kind of religion that's going on in your life, that helps with that. And then if you're married, having a great spouse to help you. Because they're there for every day and watching over you, and that is also part of your stress relief. Hopefully, your spouse is, and hopefully you can talk to them. I'm lucky; my wife's a nurse.
Oh, nice, yeah.
So she sees some stuff. I'm actually really blessed. I have what I like to. I'm very proud of it. I have a servant's family. My son's in law enforcement. My oldest daughter is an ICU nurse. My wife's a nurse. My daughter-in-law is a correction supervisor.
No way.
And then my youngest she's in school right now, but I said, proud of all my kids, but she has the opportunity to potentially work for our federal government as an analyst.
Wow.
So
very cool.
She's not at Texas A&M right now.
Yeah.
So, so
that's awesome.
So that's impressive, what you just shared with right there. Because your kids don't follow your path or your wife's path unless they had the highest admiration for you and your wife.
True.
That's impressive.
Thank you. They're impressive kids. All three of them. Everybody likes to brag on their children, and we all got reason to brag on our children. My kids are better than me, thankfully, and they're all on their own path, and they're all doing a fabulous job.
That's awesome.
This got deep.
It did. It did get deep.
Wow.
We haven't even really got on questions.
No,
Not
we
yet.
haven't.
We
No.
haven't. No, I threw this earlier. I should have left it on the ground.
You should have.
So, all right, we'll go to one because there's one here that fits where, because we're kind of talking about mental fitness right now is kind of where we've spent the last little bit of time. So, one of these questions relates to your time in SWAT on both mental and physical fitness, we'll call it. So, and it doesn't necessarily have to be SWAT related. That's just the way I wrote the question. But how do you rely on your team to keep you accountable in both of those areas?
Well, I mean, definitely. And I guess it depends on which way you're asking it too. If you're asking it as from a leader role, or as just an operator or an investigator. Because your accountability comes in all different fashions, right?
Sure.
So as an operator, I'm given a job, and I need to prepare for whatever that job's going to be. So whether I'm breacher, or room clearing. It doesn't matter. I need to be at the top of my game. So, you show up for practice. You show up for every practice, with certain exceptions. Obviously, certain things come in, family emergencies, so on and so forth. But you be there, put all your energy into learning everything, doing the work, and you have to have that mental preparation, but you also have to have the physical preparation to go with it, right? Because that's a demanding role.
Yep.
I got to be able to take care of myself. If I can't physically or mentally take care of myself, how am I going to take care of the persons that I'm trying to help, or take care of my brothers and sisters that may are on my team working with me? So, if I'm not doing something right, whether it's as an operator, as an investigator, as a leader, then they need to call me out. And that's the nice thing with SWAT, or any special teams. You should be close enough where, you have your debrief. Your brothers call you out, your sisters call you out and tell you what you're screwing up.
Yep.
And it's not because they're being mean. They're trying to make you better, and we're trying to make it safer for everybody, because we want everybody to come home after every operation, And
Absolutely.
I'm in a role now that, I don't go through doors anymore.
Right.
That's not what my job is anymore. I'm old enough that I've realized I'm a detriment. I'm 54. I'm not as fast as I used to be. Okay. I can't hear as well, as my wife will tell you that. Okay. I don't see as well, especially with going from light to dark.
Sure.
My eyes don't, rapidly change as much. So physically, I'm not the same guy I was 5 years ago, or, in the beginning and doing operations and stuff.
Yep.
So my goal, my job is not to go do that. My job is to make sure I've given them every tool that we can be for that situation, or training prior to that.
Yep.
And then, review the plans. I let them make the entry plans now, and I review it. I'm not the guy going in now.
Sure.
My job is to look at it and see if I can add something to it. Make it better, help them fine tune it. But then overall, my job is to, make sure whatever we're doing, it's the safest it can be for them, for the public, and then for the suspects, if there's suspects involved. So,
yeah, there's a lot there that I think, because you mentioned the team being close enough to be able to call each other out, right? And that, you see that a lot on the fire side as well. And sometimes it gets misconstrued as, like, oh, everybody in the firehouse swears a lot, or they're, it's interesting to hear it from your point of view as well, because it does, and it probably spans multiple industries, not just the ones we're in, right? But being close enough with a group of people to be able to call each other out on their shit, so that everybody goes home at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, typically we're all type A personalities, right?
Yep.
Being in this kind of work, right?
Yep.
Whether it's emergency services, fire, EMS, military, doesn't matter. We're all of a type A personality. Yeah, we all have egos. I mean, we do, right?
Yeah,
we do.
for sure.
Mm-hmm.
But you got to leave that ego at the door, and that's hard.
Yep.
And it's hard to, when somebody's telling you, hey, you screwed this up, it's hard to kind of swallow that back and go, yeah, I did.
Yep.
But, that's where hopefully you foster that kind of relationship community with your brothers, your sisters, where you can be honest and we fix it, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
One of the things I found, and I'm sure it's the same with fire, it doesn't matter what your game plan is in the beginning. It falls through every time.
Yep.
Most of it may stay intact, but there's going to be something that always happens, that, you weren't expecting. And you try to plan for everything.
For sure.
And then that's when we come to that debrief time, or maybe it's the next practice time. And like, hey, remember when this happened and you did this? And it's not that they're calling you out and saying you're a moron, or maybe we're right. But no, not typically, because you're trying to make a decision on the fly.
Yes.
And it's just like, okay, how do we fix that? And hopefully you have developed that relationship where you can suck down your pride a little bit and go, yeah, I screwed that up. what can I do? You know, obviously I missed it.
Yep.
What do you guys think? What do we do? And that's when you have your brain session and you try to figure that out for the next time. You know, and obviously as part of training, you go out and do the physical side of it, but you also have those tabletop exercises where we throw problems out, and then we try to fix those before we ever actually have the real problem.
Yep.
So that's, you know, the goal. Does it always work that way? No, it doesn't. But, you know, that's, you know, when you have, especially our kind of, we call it industry, whatever you want to call it, jobs, we're just a little bit closer. And that's probably because the nature of the job
Correct.
and what can happen as part of the job. So, you know, and you don't always necessarily like your brother,
Yep.
but you love him or her
Yep.
to where you want to make sure they go home. We don't have to agree about stuff.
For sure.
You know.
Yeah.
But, you know, it's the difference between I could hate your guts, but I'm not going to let anything happen to you
Yep.
under my watch, you know,
Yep.
if all possible. So, and then that's also the role of your commander.
Yep.
That's my job, is to keep my people safe to the best of my ability.
With the egos at play, feel free to ask a question at any point. I'm just going to keep going.
You can keep going, but I'm almost there.
Okay,
but
all
I'm
right.
going to let you keep
Warming
going.
up.
So with, you know, everybody's type A, egos are at play. What does it look like for you, or how did you know when it was time to stop going through the door?
You know, when I keep falling out of the back of the truck, you know, that's part of it. And I've fallen out of the back of the truck.
You have not.
Oh, I have. I caught my toe going out. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
I would love to be a fly on the wall for that debrief.
Well, you know, it's hard as you get older because we think we're invincible, right? That's part of type A personality. And I would say physical change, I started really feeling it around 43.
Okay.
I was still able to lie to myself.
Write that down.
Makes
43.
sense.
You
That
know?
makes
Write that
sense.
down.
I was still able to lie to myself. But then as I got to my mid, you know, late 40s, probably closer to 47 and stuff, you know, and it's like, yeah, I want to do this, but am I the right guy to do it anymore? You know, and it's not supposed to be about me in that team atmosphere. What is the best for the team?
Absolutely.
Me going through the door is not the best for the team anymore. My job is something different now, you know, and what it is now. And you know what? Sometimes I got to evaluate, am I still what's best for the team?
Yep.
And part of that role is to make sure that you train your guys and gals to become better than you are, and then to take your role and then to do better than what you did. So, you know, that's what I'm trying to do now.
Yep.
Is, you know, looking towards the future. How much longer am I going to do it? I don't know. But, you know, I want to be able to walk out that door comfortably and know the next guy up has got it,
Yep.
you know. And, you know, that's what my job is now. Keep them safe, but make them better than me, which don't take much, you know. And then that way they can they're going to succeed and do far better than what I did.
Sure.
That's what my goal is. So.
Nice. Was that all self-realization, or did you kind of have your team like is that something you ask your team, or is it all internal? Like, am I still good?
Well, you know, it's internal, and honestly, I've asked my team, you know, hey,
Nice.
do you want me here still?
Yeah.
You know, am I still effective? You know, if they say, you know, with our team, it's vote on, vote off.
Oh, okay.
If I'm not doing good, you just tell me, and I'm gone. You know, and it's not any hard feelings on that.
Sure.
I mean, because with for that kind of operations, you got to be at the top of your game. If I'm not at the top of my game, then I don't need to be here. So yeah, there's, you know, I ask my team leads, you know, my assistant commander. I got there's another guy that's been on the team almost as long as me, you know. And hey, am I still doing what I need to do? Do you still want me here? Am I still effective in my role? You know, and if I'm not, you're not going to hurt my feelings.
Yeah.
You know, so.
That's cool. I like that.
Have
that culture.
Have you seen others do the same thing, or Are you a
Yeah.
different breed?
No. You know, a lot of the guys that get into the teams, you know, across whatever, military, whatever, you know, like the commander before me is kind of the same. He reevaluated as he got along, and, you know, his roles changed because we're not a full-time team with us, you know, and he's looking at what he's doing and the amount of time and effort he can devote, you know, and he came to a point and realization as I'm not the best for the team anymore. You know, it's time for someone else to do it. And, you know, it'd be nice to be able to run and gun, as they like to say, you know, your whole career. And some guys get to do that. But, you know, with a part-time team, you don't. You have so many areas that you're getting pulled to. There is a point where you just can't keep doing everything.
Yeah.
So, and, you know, like I said, it's an internal evaluation. It's an evaluation by your peers. And, you know, and you just, a realization that things are not always going to stay the same. They have to change at some point. And if they're going to change, why not be on your terms and try to do it where, okay, you know, we're going to go out, but I'm going to take care of everybody else to make sure. When I say that, I just want to, you know, I can go home and sleep and not worry about them.
Yeah.
You know, because that's a nightmare as a commander, as any kind of leader, that have somebody hurt under your watch. So that, you know, that's where we're at. So.
So I got one for you. We'll take it a little more broad. You ready?
Sure.
So a lot of experience, you know, started as an operator, come up a lot of, I almost hesitate to even guess at how many different like leaders you've seen come and go and worked for over the years, right? So coming up through, like starting at the bottom, coming up through, what would you say like your leadership style is now, and how do you think it's like evolved coming from the bottom?
You know, obviously it is involved. Everything evolves, right? So a good or decent leader, he watches and learns from the leaders that he has or she has, and you try to take the best that they have, and then you kind of mold it into your own.
Yeah.
You know, you should always be learning. You should always be listening, and you're not always right. You know, your people should always come first. You know, you hear that lead by example. You know, it's beat to death, but that's true. You know, if you want a certain type of work ethic, work product, you need to show your people what it is, number one, right? Yeah. So how are they going to know what I want if I don't show them how to do it? Okay. And then I need to give them the tools to do it. So, you know, whether I teach them or I send them to schools. And then part of that's also your evaluation skills. Find your folks' strengths and weaknesses. Build on their strengths, but also build on their weaknesses to make them a better, well-rounded, you know, investigator, operator, whatever it is that they're doing, you know. And then you continue to be support system. So, you know, if you train the people right, then you can pretty much step out of the way and let them go. And then when they need help, you go in and do whatever they need to do. But you also need, you know, you can't ask them to do something that you're not willing to do on your own.
Absolutely.
You know, and at some point in leadership, you do have to stay way back. You can't just jump in it anymore. You can't kick in the doors and do things. But, you know, getting up to that point, you need to be setting everybody up, you know, around you so they can become leaders in their own right and hopefully do far better than what you do.
Yep.
So, but yeah, it's molded it, and it goes all the way back to how my father was. You know, his honor code, that has been a big part of my life. You know, you do things the right way, for the right reasons. You know, and you know the saying is, you know, even when one's there to watch what you're doing, you still do it the right way.
Yeah.
You know, and
absolutely.
if you do it that way, then you have less stumbles. You're still going to fall, but you know, you have less stumbles and stuff. And then you try to impart, you know, the little wisdoms that you get along the way and share that and hopefully make everybody else better around you.
Yep.
You know, whether like I said, it doesn't matter whether it's an operator or an investigator, hopefully, or a son or a daughter.
Mm-hmm.
You want everybody to be better than what you are. So.
Well, that's what I was just going to say. Like, take out operator, investigator, that applies to, insert any leadership position, I think.
Everything.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it doesn't industry-wide.
Yeah, for sure.
You got to set the example. You got to be willing to do the dirtiest work, right? Show them what you want done. If you don't show them how they know how to do it, give them the tools to do it, okay? Whether you provide the training or you send them somewhere, listen to what they say. When they're right, they're right. If you're wrong, you're wrong. Give credit where credit's due, always, and when they need support, you do that. Whether it's 3 a.m. and they're working a death scene and you need to go get them coffee or something else, and you go be the go boy, or you support them when they're right, and you address it when they make a mistake, and you be fair about it. So.
I like that. Willing to just go get coffee. Do what you got to do, right?
Well, exactly. You play whatever role they need.
Yeah.
Like I said, if you do your part as a leader, then they can do theirs, and they know what they're supposed to do, and you don't necessarily need to stand over them and hover on them and second guessing them, because you've already you've told them what's expected. They understand that. You've given them the tools. So now I just do whatever they need me to do. Hey, you need me to hold a light? I hold a light. It's whatever you need to do. So.
It's not like holding the light when your dad's telling you to work on the car, though, because it's wrong every time, no matter what.
It is. But it's the memories you make with
That's
your
right,
dad.
Yeah. Oh, I love it, man. There's probably even more that we could dig into on the leadership side, that spans it's industry. It doesn't matter, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I appreciate you. I appreciate you sharing that. So you mentioned your OCD and the instructor side, right?
Well, instructor side and investigator side, it goes hand in hand. If you're going to do something right.
Sure.
Don't half-ass it. Go do it right. On the instructor side, obviously you got to instruct somebody right. If you don't instruct somebody right, somebody's going to get hurt or worse, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. And dealing with use of force issues, you got to instruct not only on the physical component, in other words, being able to shoot, reload, whatever, but you got to teach them when to do that stuff. That's as important or more important.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, you end up going to prison, right?
Yep.
Same with the physical tactics, hand-to-hand combat. When to do it, when not to do it, and to do it right, And the thing with physical tactics, teaching, there's always pain involved. And if you're showing somebody, because you do demonstrate it, to demonstrate it right, there's going to be some pain that's inflicted. Now, you want to minimize the transfer of that, but you want to make sure that they understand what they're doing. And, some of the classes we teach, you'll have folks that will tap out or, oh, that hurts, And I'm sure it does.
Right.
But if you, as whether the instructor or the training partner, you tap out too soon, your partner that's training with you thinks they got the technique, but they don't.
Interesting.
Because you tapped out too soon because you don't want to feel that pain.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So you got to suck up a little bit of the pain to make sure.
So if it were to actually happen and actually go down, that's very interesting.
Because you're learning a technique.
Yeah.
And if you're not learning it correctly, because, okay, I applied it only to a certain point.
Yep.
But that's not where it's supposed to be, so I didn't fully learn that technique. So it's the instructor's job to teach it and to watch and make sure that it's, being learned, and when you do the practical side of it, it's being put into play. Like I said, nobody likes pain.
Yeah.
But you got to watch for those things. But, ultimately the goal, whether the psychomotor skills or any instructor skill, but whatever I'm teaching you, I need to make sure I'm giving you my best. So it's the research of it, the application of it. If I don't, then you're not going to be able to do it right. And depending on what we're talking about, maybe you're going to get hurt or worse. And I can't live with that.
Damn, yeah.
How do you do that? As an instructor, if you're sitting there and you're watching these to work,
Uh-huh.
and you see that they cut short because their pain threshold was too low.
Get back in there, suck
What
it
do
up.
yeah, what do you do? Like
I will help adjust their pain threshold. So, I mean, but you step
Please
in,
elaborate.
and what I do, I'll step in and I'll demonstrate it. I do it anyway. I demonstrate to, but I demonstrate it to them both.
Mm.
And then I try to explain the same thing. I explain to the same thing, the whole class when I talk to, you are shortchanging your brother or sister by wussing out.
Mm.
It hurts.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It's always going to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Suck that up for them so that,
Interesting.
nothing bad hopefully happens to them because they're able to learn and apply that. And that actually goes farther on down the line because if they apply the technique right, then maybe we ensure the suspect doesn't get hurt.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because we don't want them to get hurt either, right? The whole thing's about controlling the situation, use the minimal amount of force, whatever it is. Hopefully it's no force whatsoever. We can talk through it and get stuff done. But you can't shortchange your partner. Regardless of whatever we're doing, whether it's SWAT or whatever, you're still your brother's keeper.
Yep.
In that, in training, okay, I got to take a little pain to make sure you know what you're doing. If, everybody else learns it in 5 moves, but you learn it in 10, then I go down 10 times. Everybody learns a little different.
Yep.
So that is part of that team atmosphere that you got to build.
Yeah.
Okay, I got it, but he doesn't. So
Yep.
I keep stepping up till he or she gets it, and then we can move on to the next one, whatever that is. So.
Interesting.
Yeah, everybody has their own way as far as instructors trying to get those points across. Something else with instructing I learned as well, there has to be a little fun involved.
Sure.
You can't lose control of it, obviously. But if you're not enjoying the atmosphere, then you will not learn, right?
Right.
If you don't want to be there, we'll just do what the minimum is to leave. So you got to use your own experiences, your own stories, and even if you look like an idiot out of it,
Yep.
to teach them, and so that they will be better than what you are. So, but if it's not enjoyable, my work says I got to be here, then you're only going to get 70%, 50% out of it. And you want to get as much out of it as you can. So you got to make it a little fun.
How do you make it fun?
It's the interaction with them.
Okay.
And it's just talking story. So, if we're doing a move, if I know of an application of it, whether it's my own or someone else's, then I'll explain it to them. But, it's a little bit of joking, it's a little bit of that brotherly joking love, sisterly. So, you got to tear everybody down, build them back up. But
That's right.
You got to make it a little fun, But, everybody has their own way of doing that. Humor is usually a little good part of it, and you're not trying to malign anybody or belittle anybody, anything like that. That's why you pick on yourself, My son, he's a special deputy, but he's also a physical tactics instructor, so he's used to dad beating up on him all these years. So I will do that to my son. But, my son understands that. My son's a great physical tactics instructor.
Yeah.
So, he helps out with some of the classes that I get to teach, which is awesome.
Yeah, that is awesome.
Because I get to work with my boy,
Yeah.
But, that's, and in fact, that's one of the best pastors I ever seen. He would tell stories about himself, and he would incorporate his wife. Now, he never belittled his wife. He was always the idiot, and she was always the smart one, But you told a story doing that way where people can understand it, grasp it, and
relate a little
relate.
bit.
And that's what you're trying to do. With some of these techniques, why would I use them? When would I use them? You got to give a little bit of a story for them to be able to see it. Everybody learns on a different level, right?
Yep,
Whether it's reading, hands-on, the comprehension. So you got to figure out with each person that you're working with, what's the way they learn best, and then work through that with them. Hopefully, you're able to work through that with them. And like I said, you add a little bit of humor in it, add some stories, and usually it's better if you have a story that's a real story to share because it means a little bit more. We can learn things from watching training videos and stuff. it's not quite as impactful sometimes,
Sure.
but it's definitely helpful. Or you can watch and say, hey, I had something like that, and then explain it and go from there.
Oh.
So they can see that, oh, yeah, that can happen here.
Yeah.
Because some of these, videos, they're great videos, but maybe they happened in a jurisdiction where they have, 5,000 officers, and
Sure.
you got 25
yeah.
on your agency,
Yeah. Yeah.
How's that apply here? Well, you got to make it apply here so they
Yep.
understand it.
Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
Interesting.
So let's stay on the training thing for a minute, because I'm curious. Because of the world we live in currently, and not very many people want to be a police officer at the moment.
Oh.
So what does your training look like now to, like you said, the least amount of force required, or whatever the name is for that? What does that training look like? Because there's, you can fire 1,000 rounds downrange and get really proficient with a pistol, but you're talking body language, like you're talking a lot of really subtle things that you have to pay attention to. What does that look like now?
So, obviously the greatest weapon that you have is your mind.
For sure.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, as an instructor, as a leader, when you're selecting candidates, you need to find people and develop the thought process, be able to do things under stress, make those quick decisions, and they won't be perfect. They're never perfect, right?
Sure.
We just want the best decision you can make in that time. And, usually it's I got an analogy. I stole it. Nothing I have's new.
Bring it. I love it.
It
We
is,
love-
you know.
I love thievery.
Yeah, we love
Well,
stolen
that's
shit.
what you do, right? You take the best of everybody, and that's
Yep.
that helps develop your style. But brings things together. And I don't know where I took it from. So whoever originally thought of it,
So
thank you.
technically, it's not stolen.
It's-
yeah.
It's found.
So I like to think of your mind like as a 4-drawer filing cabinet, right? So you take it out of the box, you open the drawer, what's in it?
Nothing.
Nothing, right? Okay. So each time we train, each time we talk, each time whether it's a tabletop or we're sitting here over lunch talking about a situation, we develop a file.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Mm-hmm. And you got a little assistant in your head, male, female, whoever you want, right? Okay. So when something bad is happening, what happens is your brain will yank open that drawer and it's looking for an answer.
Yeah.
If you've not thought of that or something similar, then there is no answer. You go blank and you don't, we don't win. We lose. And if we don't lose, that's bad, right?
Mm.
So our brain is not, you could have the perfect response in there.
Yeah.
That's not what it's going to go through. It's going to go for the adequate.
Yeah.
What's it going to get me through this?
Mm.
So as part of your instructing, that's what you're trying to teach your folks. And you hopefully are able to help develop some of the mental process. Because
Yeah.
like I said, we can go on the mat, knock each other down all day. We
Right.
can go shoot rounds. But you got to have the classroom portion where we talk about the application of force, when we're going to use it, what level is it?
Yeah.
De-escalation is a big thing we're throwing out, but it's applicable, right?
Sure.
Sometimes, we can create a situation and make it worse than what it needs to be
Yep.
by letting emotion get into it. So we need to try to take emotion out of the decision. So in other words, oh, hey, you said something mean about me, now I'm mad. No, that's not what we need to do.
Yep.
And so, and leaders, instructors, period. That's something that you have to try to develop, is that thought process, be able to think through it, not let these other factors change the way that they're trying to do their job in the heat of what could be a real hot moment, So
Yep.
hopefully that answered your question. I don't know. Kind of beat around the bush.
No, it's okay. And I think there's a whole nother episode we could probably get into, but part of the problem that I see is we only get to see the ones that go wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
So
And you only see part of that.
exactly.
Correct.
So
if you're talking about on the news, you don't
Right.
get to see everything up,
Correct.
Before and after that
Right.
may have occurred.
They don't show you your highlight reel?
Yeah,
right?
So
They omit that one?
But
I feel like that
you
should be a normalized
It
thing.
should
I
be.
feel like that would be great. Like,
Well, and things too that sometimes it's taken out of context.
Yeah.
So when
Yeah.
you watch a use of force video, an actual video of something that's occurred
Yep.
with an officer, and what the general public will see is, sometimes you'll see a person that's on the ground, and you'll see an officer striking them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and they think, oh my God, they're beating that man.
Yep.
Okay, and I can see that, right?
Mm-hmm.
What they don't realize is, no, we're not punching, kicking them, and yeah, we are, but no, we're not.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
We're trying to manipulate areas to get a certain response. Okay, so we're trying to hit motor nerves, pressure points. They should not be just drilling away into somebody's head. Now, if it's a life and death situation, things
Right.
change, right?
Yeah.
But if you got an arm underneath and maybe it has a weapon, we're trying to get control of that, and we'll hit motor nerve point areas that have specific responses. So, like a radial. If you're holding a Coke can and your buddy hits you right here, the hand releases, right? It has a sympathetic reflex response, right? So there's certain areas that you target to try to make that manipulation. We're trying to stay away from joints because we don't want to injure joints, right?
Mm-hmm.
Stay away from the head, same thing. But when somebody from the outside sees me doing a hammer fist here,
Yep.
oh, you're beating him. No, I'm trying to, maybe get rid of a weapon that's in his hand or get him to release so I can take him into custody. So, the general public's understanding of what you're trying to do looks different, based off of their realities and experience versus what your training has taught you to do.
Interesting.
And like I said, neither one's not necessarily wrong when you see, oh, yeah, he's punching, he's kicking. Yeah. We are. But
With
the
intention.
goal is different.
Yeah.
We're not trying to harm you,
Right.
or they shouldn't be trying to harm you.
Right.
Right,
Put it
right.
that way, right? We're trying to elicit a response where we can gain control. And we have to change thought processes, So depending on what is going on should determine what kind of technique that they're using, whether they're going high, they're going low. And whether it's a motor nerve point, touch pressure point, which obviously you don't typically use those. You're not going to use those in a fight. But,
Right.
you're going after those motor nerve points. You're trying to elicit a response that allows you to gain control of the situation. And you're also trying to do this in a way, or you should be trying to do this in a way, that you're not hurting somebody.
Right.
Now, I understand, hey, I hit you, I do a strike here, you're going to get a bruise.
Yep.
Okay? I hit you here, I may permanently damage your elbow. That's not what I'm trying to do.
Interesting. Yeah.
So, when we deal with physical tactics, there's new stuff, but not a whole lot of new stuff.
Yeah.
We're teaching a lot more ground stuff now than we used to, which is good.
Yeah.
Because most fights go to the ground, right?
Absolutely.
So you got to
Yeah.
figure out how to survive down there,
Yep.
gain control, get somebody into custody, least amount of force,
Yep.
in the quickest amount of time as possible. So there is changes to it, but you also got to work within the framework of your state laws and federal laws on what you're going to do. Okay.
I really feel like you should demonstrate this on.
Get out here.
I want to see the can drop. That's what I want to see. Wow.
You can try that next time. We'll go out the
RJ,
day after this.
go ahead.
We'll put the mats out.
You can do research, flex reflex response.
There you go.
That's
Research.
what you're looking for on there.
I need live
So,
action right now.
Yeah.
No, but what I was going to say is I think if anything gets taken away from this episode, it's that right there. For anybody who might watch what they put on the news, watch it with that in mind, and I think that perspective changes a little bit, which I think is fantastic.
Like I said, it needs to be evaluated, and something is, on face value is not always necessarily what you think it is initially, right? So, and we do a lot of prejudging based off of what we see on TV, social media.
Yep.
And we do that prejudging without the full context, So, and that's why people don't understand when they see a use of force incident and then they see an officer that maybe it goes to court, and then they are found not to be at fault, not guilty. If it's a criminal charge, and they don't understand it.
Right.
It's because what they think is happening and what is actually trying to be done is two different things. And it's easy to misconstrue a strike here as a beat down or under the legs. And obviously there's other things that absolutely everybody can see is wrong. No doubt. Okay. I'm not trying to get into that argument. But the public don't understand how law enforcement is trained, and they don't understand how fire is trained, and they don't understand how EMS is trained on the things that they have to do, So, and it makes it difficult. And you can't, unfortunately, we got a lot of TV.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
And it's entertainment.
Yeah.
But it's not exactly, what law enforcement does or what fire does, So, you got NCIS, hey, Abby gets a DNA return in an hour. We're looking at 6 months to a year or more, on something like that.
Really?
So, definitely. And it just, makes it seem like everybody's got, some kind of piece of equipment. Hey, we'll go back down to the basement. We'll take care of it. And it don't work that way.
No.
Unfortunately. So.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So when something like really high profile, we'll call it, does happen, whether it's a lack of training or, technique gone wrong, is that influencing your training in any way? Like, does that then become
for everybody.
A refresh?
Yeah, for everybody. I mean, all instructors should be constantly watching, in their field, whatever it is you're teaching, whether it's physical tactics or firearms or emergency vehicle operations or interview. It doesn't matter. You pick whatever that field is. You should be constantly watching what's happening in the real world and then evaluating, is my training meeting what's happening out there?
Yeah.
Or are we doing the same old that now we're long past that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's certain things that are always going to be the basics.
Yep.
Firearms, sight alignment, sight picture,
Yep.
Stance. That's always going to be there, okay? But it's the other things that you add into, we're looking at, hey, what's the distance that gunfights are occurring? Where are they happening at?
Interesting,
Traffic stops, domestics. Okay, what do we need to change and adapt?
Yep.
Maybe it's not the firearms aspect out of it. It's how we approach the vehicle.
Yep.
So you got to, look at that picture and hopefully have, several guys in that field, and you look at it from all different angles, because if one guy looks at it, you get fixated on one thing, right? That's even with an investigation. You want to have different eyes look at it. What did we do good? What did we do bad? How do we improve it for the end user?
Sure.
And that's what we all should be doing. And, instructors should be also seeking out other training on their own to make themselves better.
Absolutely.
Right? I mean, how do you learn new skills if you don't go out and find somebody that's doing something different?
Yeah.
And we may not like everything they do, but, you usually can find at least one thing. It's usually a lot more than that, but at least one thing that you didn't think of that, somebody else has, put a lot of thought, into, and they come up with a new way to do something or a new way to process the information that's coming in, and you're like, oh, wow, that makes a difference.
Yeah, we always, when it comes to like learning new things and training, don't listen with your agree or disagree filter on, right? Listen to try and learn, right? You're not everybody. Even if I've learned from people that I thought are idiots, and they'll say a few things, you're like, oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense.
You can always learn something from everybody, right? We all want to be liked, and we all want to be right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we want to be told what we're doing is the greatest, latest, greatest, right?
Yep.
That's the ego side of us.
Yep.
But if you're really into it, I mean, as an instructor, it's not about me. It's about making sure that you guys get to do, you're able to do the job and do the job well, hopefully.
Yeah.
And you come home. So
Yep.
that feeds into my ego side, But no, I mean, literally, that's
different.
what my job is.
Yeah.
Is if you do well, then that means I did good,
Right.
hopefully, and you learned something from me.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, and I did, hopefully, my job at least in some fashion. you know.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, the ego part is a big deal in all of the instructing. Hearing you talk about all these different forms of instructing, it's a big deal. And I personally, I see it as that's your greatest teacher, is one that has laid that ego behind or at the door, or however you want to say it, and approached it in a learning style, even as you're instructing or teaching.
Yeah.
So it's good.
Yep.
It's good.
So I know we're almost at an hour and a half. If that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Is it really?
It goes quick.
Question
So
3.
I got we're on number 4 I think. No. So I got 2 more.
Okay.
Or I'll end with one, but throughout your I always like to, our
Excuse me.
our podcast is called Untold Stories. So he's got it. He's dying over there.
Yeah,
so
I'm dying.
that's
I'm
it.
dying.
Shows off.
We told
It's
him
done.
he wasn't allowed to drink anything, but
There it goes.
Dry throat. Anyway.
so
Another cough or two coming. But anyway.
that's okay. So can you give us like a call out that went really well in your mind, like from an operator standpoint, from a leader standpoint? I always like to hear like what success looks like, when I'm talking to somebody.
I don't have one that just really stands out, unfortunately.
It's okay.
But I could turn around and say the last one.
Fair.
And what stands out about it is problems cropped up, and my team were able to overcome that, and they didn't need me.
Interesting.
They were able to see what's happening. They made a decision. It was the right decision, and they didn't need me to jump in and tell them what to do. So, it's a successful one right there. And, every call out, there's something that happens.
Sure.
And there's also somebody that steps up and comes up with an idea. And, anymore, most of the time it's not me, and that's great. That means everybody
love
else is
that.
doing good,
Yeah.
So, not one particular one. We've done all kinds of things. Our bread and butter is a barricaded subject usually, and we've had quite a few over the years. We're what would probably be considered tier 2. We're not tier 1. We're not a full-time team. We don't,
Right.
get to train the same and have the same equipment as everybody else. But we're fairly active for a small rural county. And, we've had a lot of barricaded, subjects.
Yep.
And most of them end well. A few of them have ended, unfortunately, with a suspect taking their own life. And
Yeah.
you can't control that. And
Yep.
certainly that's not something we want to happen. But yeah, like I said, the last one, they had a couple problems come up. Even the one before that, same
Yeah.
thing. They saw the problem. They thought it through quickly, and they overcome it.
Nice.
So it was great.
I love that.
Yeah.
It means you're doing your job as a leader, right?
Well, hopefully I'm doing my job. It means
Yeah.
I got good people.
Yeah.
And they're the ones that's making it happen. I'm
For
just
sure.
at the done say, hey, you guys did good.
Yeah.
So works great.
So how close or far off is the show SWAT from what you guys do?
Which show? The original one?
No, the new one with
The new one? It's TV.
Yeah.
It's just.
I always
it's
like to
pure
ask.
TV.
It's because it's like
Yeah.
the fire shows too,
It's-
right? I'm
it's
like, come
cool.
on.
Yeah, well, if you watch the show, and I have watched it, and it's entertainment, it's cool.
Yeah.
They're responding with 6 guys.
Yeah.
No.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
I have, depending on what, I think I got 15 guys total right now. We try to respond with 15 guys, and then sometimes we'll call our sister county, and they'll bring their 17 guys.
Really?
Wow.
So I would
Okay.
rather have more than not need,
Absolutely.
than not have enough. Okay, because ultimately I get called, or my assistant commander, we get a certain amount of information, and some of it will be right, some of it will be wrong, but none of it is a complete picture.
Right.
And we never know what's inside a house, right?
Yeah.
We don't want how it
Yeah.
looks. We can gauge.
Yeah.
I can hold off on sending people in, but it's kind of hard to pull people out of the air.
Mm-hmm.
To manage a a situation, where say it's a barricaded subdivision and just a standard house. 6 guys ain't going to be enough typically. You got to have outer perimeter.
Yeah.
Then you got your entry team, and we may be doing a breach and hold on one side, limited penetration or full penetration on the other side. So at the same time, we may be doing distraction techniques where we're breaking and raking windows, which also allows us to clear certain, parts of the house already before we ever go in. So if I have 6 guys, how can I do that? I can't.
Fair point.
I can't really, 8 guys isn't enough, And each guy that goes in needs to have a brother's keeper with him to try to keep him safe. We never go into a room by ourselves. So the more the merrier, And sometimes we got to bring other teams in with us, to get that job done. More often than not, maybe, So
good to know. See, there you go. I learned something.
Yeah. It's not
Also,
2 people going in on a SWAT team of 2 people.
6 people.
Well, I mean, it's just like fire, right?
Yeah.
You don't send a firefighter in by themselves ever, right?
No.
You got to have a brother's keeper there to keep them safe, because if something happens, how are they going to know about it, right?
But
And you would rather have 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 apparatuses instead of being stuck with 1 or 2, right? You
True.
can never have enough hose. You never have enough water. You never have enough ladders, equipment. Hey, maybe we don't use them.
You can always tell somebody to stand by.
Correct.
Yep.
But it doesn't make for good TV, though.
This is true.
Yeah.
Well,
We got to sexify
TV,
this
right.
thing. That's a word I just made up. But
Hondo is hot. There's no lie.
Oh,
Hondo's hot.
I mean, I think we're all on the same page there. Yeah. As far as because that's my wife and I, guilty pleasure. We like all the fire shows, Chicago Fire, whatever, right? They're entertaining.
Yeah.
But from the fire standpoint, especially when they do extrication calls and stuff like that, we know more than most people when it comes to extrication, right? So, technique based, are they trying to stay kind of close?
Even on SWAT, they do have some, where they are trying, and some obviously usually not going to be. But I mean, you can look at that with some of the movies that are out there too. Other series where they are actually bringing in, whether it's SWAT operators, or special forces members, to try to within reason, trying to make it realistic, versus Commando, where you have the never-ending gun belt,
Yes.
And you see where they're doing magazine reloads and things like that. But I mean, one of the things you show with SWAT, they have these little explosive devices they put on doors and do this. I want to know where they get those. Because I'd like to have
sweet.
some.
Yeah, absolutely.
Those are awesome.
My favorite part of SWAT is when they pull out the thermal imager and they can see through the walls into the house, and they can see the bodies that are bright orange walking around. That's my favorite part.
There's a little bit of truth to that one.
No, come on.
Yeah, there is.
What?
Yeah, they have. I don't have one. I can't afford one.
Oh, my brain's about to explode.
There is a little bit of truth to it, and I'm not going to get into it too much. Not because I can't share it. It's just I don't know all the details of the equipment. But there has been some imagers that have been developed that has been able to be used,
Really?
and I can be 100% wrong. I usually am. Wife tells me a lot.
Sure. Yep.
But do you remember the rescue that they had, the FBI HRT team did a few years back? If not, check it out. They had a mentally unstable man that got on a school bus, and it took a 5-year-old off of it.
I vaguely remember
and I'm going to get
hearing about that. Yeah.
Absolutely, I'm going to get some of the details wrong. Okay. But he ended up taking that child, and they went in underground, and I want to say it was like a container or something that he had in there.
Gotcha.
But FBI HRT had an imager that they're able to see where he was at in there. And I don't know how good the detail was or whatever, but they were able to make their entry into that based off of using some of that technology and some of the cameras and stuff. So there's a kernel of truth that goes with that. And as with anything that, on some of these tier 1 groups, FBI HRT, LAPD SWAT is, the premier SWAT in the world. But you go off, Delta, SEALs, GSG-9, and British SAS. They have stuff that us little guys don't get. We don't know about.
That's fair.
So some is utter crap. Some there's kernels of truth in it. So.
Well, I won't roll my eyes as hard next time. I had no idea.
Yeah, there's a little bit to that. Like I said, I don't know everything on it,
Sure,
but
yeah.
there's a little bit with those thermals that have come into play, and they've developed
Yeah.
some stuff. But once again, I haven't got to use one. I can't explain say the effectiveness.
If you get
of
to
them.
play with one, come back, we'll put you on again.
Oh, it'd be awesome. Yeah, I'd love to be able to play with one.
Yeah, for sure.
They might let me look at it from 15 feet away.
Yeah.
I can't afford it. So, but yeah, I mean, that's the thing. With equipment's changing, just like with
For
fire
sure.
and everything
Yeah.
in EMS. It's changing. They're trying to, which is cool. You ever watch? Was it Will Shatner? As far as talking about how Star Trek has changed everything.
Oh, yeah.
Well, look at cell phones,
Yep.
and look at what we're trying to do with space travel and everything.
Yep.
So some of these shows do generate some thought. People are like, oh, hey,
Absolutely.
can we do this?
Yeah.
And some folks are smart enough that they're able to do something.
I just had that conversation the other day, actually,
Yeah.
because everybody's like, "Oh, Star Trek predicted the flip phone was
Yeah.
like one that came up,
Yeah.
right?"
Yeah.
But I was like, I don't know that they predicted it so much that they put it out there, and then somebody smart enough was like,
Yep.
"I can make that.
Yeah.
I can do that."
Yeah.
So it is cool how you get
Hey,
these
look at
sci-fi
that.
kind of writers
Yeah.
just put stuff out there. And
Lasers. Look
Yep.
what the Navy's doing.
Oh, yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
just all
gosh.
kinds of stuff. Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah. So sometimes that entertainment, down the road, and maybe
Sure.
it's a ways down the road, but somebody's
The
able
thought's
to come
out
up
there.
with something.
The thought.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, yeah.
You have an innovator. You have a person that can apply, and then a technician
Absolutely.
to. Yep.
Yeah. I'm not the innovator. I break things,
You're the operator.
rocks and sticks,
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
All right, Jared, I got one more for him, but you
Go
ahead
for
if
it.
You
Shoot.
good?
Yeah.
All
Go.
right. Here's my question I'll leave you with. If you could leave a lasting message or legacy in law enforcement, what would it be?
Lasting message. I don't know that I'm that deep,
He's not been paying attention the entirety of this episode.
No. The only thing I would like to leave as far as a legacy was just I was a good cop. That's enough.
Love it.
The simplicity and depth
Yeah.
of the answer.
Yeah.
It's amazing what can be filled in the gaps of a simple statement. It's good.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate your time.
Thank you.
It was I learned some things.
Yes.
I think hopefully our 12 listeners learned some things.
13.
13. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. No, we need to be at 14 because we can't say it on 13. So,
14.
okay, 14.
Yeah.
No, it's been good.
Yeah.
Good.
So if you get to play with any fun toys, give us a holler. We'll bring you back on because I'd love to learn more about that.
We can do that. Yeah.
And then we'll do another episode.
Where he drops a can. Just
We'll set up cameras out on the mats. We'll go through some live action stuff. Yes. We'll do a total new episode on polygraphs. There's we got to bring you back a lot.
Well, that's okay. We could come back or bring you guys over and we'll use the MRAP. We'll hit a house and
that's how we advertise.
And that's how I get free equipment. So.
See,
this
we're
could
going
work
on
out.
the road.
Yeah,
Kyle,
let's blow some
we're
stuff
driving.
out.
Let's go.
Yeah, we're taking this on the road.
Let's go, Kyle.
All right.
That's right.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
Thanks for having
Thank
me.
you.
Appreciate it.
Of course.
So.
Everybody else, till next time.
Till next time.